This week on Talking Royals, the King gets straight back to work after his brief spell in hospital.
We were told he's already back at his desk working, and that's very typically the King.
A new investigation into the row over Sentebale.
Two sides cannot be right here, and it's the Charity Commission will now have to find out exactly who's telling the truth.
Is Sentebale now going to be remembered for this public spat?
And we're talking jam, flour sprinkles and crepes. Meghan's new range of products is sold out, apparently.
We've got flour sprinkles there.
I just want to say the ingredients of the raspberry jam is raspberries, sugar, lemon juice.
Yes, it's made with Meghan's hand.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Talking Royals. I'm here with Chris and Lizzie. We're all in the studio today. We won't be next week, but we'll explain why a little bit later on. Have you had good weeks? Been a busy one.
It's always a busy one in Royal Land, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the King's back at work, which we were talking about. Actually, we had to do a special edition of the podcast last week because we had to update the version that we had pre-recorded because the King went into hospital.
Yes, because we recorded this a little bit before they made the announcement.
Yes, in fact, when we were recording it, he was probably in hospital having his checks, so he didn't call us to let us know. Your podcast,
the bat signal out.
Your podcast might be out of date when they were. So anyway, as we explained last week, in the updated podcast, it was about 9:00 in the evening they announced he had been in hospital, but we have seen him since back at work.
It was just a short stay in hospital. He experienced some side effects from that cancer treatment, his ongoing cancer treatment. So he had a short time in hospital just to be observed. And then we saw him leaving London on Friday. He was in the back of the car. He had his window down. He was waving at members of the public. And he was being taken from London to Gloucestershire to his country retreat there, Highgrove. And we were told on Monday that he spent a restful weekend at Highgrove and that he'd returned to Windsor Castle and was going to be resuming sort of a normal working week this week.
It's incredible because, a lot of people would assume that once you have a scare like that, somebody will take a little bit longer off than just a couple of days. But this is a real reflection of just how much he enjoys the work he does, or he understands the importance of the work he does, because he was straight back at it this week.
Yeah, it kind of depends, what it was. All we were told it was side effects caused by his cancer treatment. We don't know, but actually we had, one of the charity bosses on last week saying it is quite normal that if you, have cancer treatment, you do get side effects. Sometimes you need to go to hospital to sort them out. I think the news for us last week was not the fact he went to hospital, the fact that it was an unexpected visit. In fact, when we saw Queen Camilla at that ITV event, you, me and Lizzie were all at last week, she wasn't aware her husband was either going or about to go to hospital. So I think that was why it made such big news on Thursday night, Friday morning.
Yeah, when he returned to Clarence House on Thursday, we were told he's already back at his desk working, and that's very typically the King. He does work incredibly hard. We've used the term workaholic to describe him before, and he really is. And we're told he gets an awful lot of joy out of work. He's got
just
this
like
very
you do,
sort
Charlene.
of.
I get so much joy.
So much joy.
He's
Your most joyous time is this time every week.
Yeah, obviously. I love hanging out with Lizzie.
You get loose women, evening news. It's all about the podcast.
But back to the King. He has taken a real sort of mind, body and soul approach, since his diagnosis. And part of that is the joy he finds from the work that he does and being out and about and meeting members of the public and, seeing the charities that he supports. He gets real joy out of that. In Australia, we were told that the trip had been the perfect tonic for him, and that was a very busy schedule.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned these women, actually, because they met up with Queen. They met up with Queen this week in their role as being a part of our domestic abuse campaign on loose women. And Denise Welsh and Janet Street-Porter were talking to the Queen about the King, obviously. And she just sort of said, one of the hardest things is he will not stop working. He loves the work that he does. And despite all the treatments he's going through, he gets so much joy from working. He just won't slow down.
He won't. And he, they are really trying to, carefully calibrate his diary to ensure that they prioritise his health, but you've also got a man here that gets an awful lot of joy out of his work, and he does want a full diary, and he wants to be out there doing as much work as possible. And in Northern Ireland last week, he met some other people that were cancer patients, and he said to them, he said, "What's that Winston Churchill phrase? Keep pushing on." He actually used another word, but we weren't sure.
I'm not sure we
we weren't sure if we could use it. And that's what he's doing. He's keeping going, and he's continuing with his work.
Although we should point out that actually, because we can't sort of tell you exactly what he did have planned for this week pre the hospital visit, but there were some adjustments made.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
we know of a particular visit that I can't tell you about that didn't happen this week. So because Buckingham Palace never announced it, it didn't need to be cancelled, as it were. But he did do an investiture at Windsor Castle. He's had his audiences with the Prime Minister, which he has every Wednesday. He's done that thing that we had to cancel last week, the credentials, new ambassadors from various countries coming in who meet the King when they start their jobs. So those things have happened, but the thing that was cancelled would have been, should we say, a bit more outside, a bit more physical, a bit more active, and it didn't happen.
He has done a couple of public engagements, but they have moved some appointments, as it was described to us, and that was all very much in keeping with kind of balancing the King's diary ahead of a very busy week next week. He's got a state visit to Italy with the Queen, and so they were obviously conscious of ensuring that his diary was balanced out ahead of that.
And one thing he really wouldn't have cancelled, I can't imagine, was the investiture of his good friend Alan Titchmarsh, because they go back about 40 years or something ridiculous.
Well, they share a love of gardening, they share a love of the outside world, they share a love of nature. And yes, Alan Titchmarsh already had an honour. In fact, we were just looking up the order that it goes in, doesn't it? You start off with an MBE, then you get an OBE, then you get a CBE. The word empire is always a little bit tricky at the end. In fact, I mean, we've heard that the King would like to actually get rid of the empire from it, but a lot of people say no, you can't. That's one of the things it is. Can't do that. But you can see why the word empire for a lot of people is tricky. Anyway, we digress. So it is now Alan Titchmarsh, CBE, who was asked, as commander of the British Empire, of course, darling, who was asked about the King's health after he got his award.
I said it was nice to see him back. We were all relieved. And he talked about the fact that I'd gone up in the world. He's on form. It's fatiguing. It's terribly tiring, I think, treatment for cancer. And his resilience is just astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard work doing treatment for cancer, but it's also hard work spending hours and hours shaking hands.
Those investitures, they can look like you're just standing there meeting people, but they go on for a long time. There's a lot of time on his feet, and also engaging with a lot of people and remembering sort of what they have done to be awarded. So it is actually more strenuous than I think. I mean,
he can't exactly say to somebody, "I can't remember why you're here. Tell me again." So
yes, he has to have done his revision the night before.
Yes,
really,
and I bet he knows the order of CBE, OBE, MBE. So, and as Alan Titchmarsh just confirmed there, he's gone up in the world from O to C, order to commander.
I mean, we'd love to reach those dizzy heights, but we'll hold on firm. We may well reach those dizzy heights at some point in time.
There's a knighthood coming, I'm sure, for all of us. Damehood.
Yes, Dame Charlene White. It has a certain ring to it.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. I did mention at the start of this, we're not going to be together next week, and you did mention that the King and Queen are going to Italy, and you will be joining them.
We will be.
Yeah, and I suppose there was a little bit of like, will he or won't he go? Because to recap, the Pope's already cancelled on the King because of his illness, and we didn't know for sure when we recorded last week's podcast whether or not the King would be cancelling on Italy. However, all the preparations are undergoing. Of course, the doctors, can still put brakes on it if they really, really need to. But at the moment, it all looks like it's ploughing ahead. And what they've done, they've taken the day he was meant to go to the Holy See and see the Pope, and they've kind of spread out the programme over the 4 days. So in actual fact, that means the workload for the King is a little bit lighter, which his doctors are probably quite happy with.
I mean, Chris says lighter. It is lighter, but it's still a very busy programme. They are. It's a 4-day state visit, and we'll take in both Rome and Ravenna.
and a speech to the Italian Parliament, which you remember when he went to Germany and France on state visits, and that speech was sort of half French, half English, and it goes down so well with your host when you do that. So we're going to check out his Italian when he speaks to, and he's the first British monarch actually to speak to a joint session of the Italian Parliament. So not only that pressure, but he's also got the pressure of how to know how to pronounce Italian words.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
I can do buongiorno.
I think you'll need
I think he's going to need a little bit more than that.
Just a squidge. Just a squidge.
He is very good, though. I mean, both, as Chris says, when he spoke in both French and German, he was.
Oh, they loved
very
it.
accomplished.
They absolutely loved
they did.
it, didn't
But I
They
imagine
very
that,
well.
he seems like a man to me who at school probably excelled at languages. So I'm sure he really quite enjoys sort of flexing his muscles.
learned Welsh as well, and that's not an easy language.
No,
to
that
learn,
isn't an easy language either. Now, I tell you, talking about things that haven't been very easy, Harry has had a shocking week with the Sentebale stuff is concerned.
Quite.
Yes, this has become an incredibly public and bitter row between two sides, and in the middle of it, Sentebale, and you have to wonder the effect on the charity away from all of this. Is Sentebale now going to be remembered for this public spat? And also, it helps so many people in Southern Africa affected by HIV and AIDS, and that is the good work that it's doing. And you just have to hope that this spat isn't going to affect that.
Because when we were talking about it last week, it was the very start of that spat.
Yeah.
And as each day has gone on, including an interview that was given over the weekend, as each day has gone on, it feels like it's gotten worse and worse.
Yes.
And now the Charity Commission is
Yes, so let's bring everyone up to speed in the sense that today, as we record this, the Charity Commission have said that it's launching a sort of formal investigation. I spoke to them earlier. They said, look, we were aware of issues going on with this charity even before Harry walked away last week. Right. So obviously complaints they had been contacted by one side or the other. And now the Charity Commission has launched a formal investigation, effectively. It's not the top tier of investigation. For example, you remember the charity involving Captain Sir Tom Moore. That was what's called a Section 49 statutory investigation. We're not there, but this is a formal investigation, and they will contact both sides. So Sophie Chanduka, who is the chair of the board, as well as Prince Harry's, Prince Seso, the co-founding patrons. So it's very much taken a step up, and as you say, all follows that interview that Dr. Chanduka gave at the weekend when she said Harry had been guilty of, or alleging that Harry had been guilty of harassment and bullying on a huge scale.
And she sort of, in that interview, she said that, the Sussex machine, she was up against the Sussex machine. And
she spoke about the unleashing of the Sussex machine on her, and both sides have today welcomed the Charity Commission.
Both sides said, we welcome this.
Yeah.
So, but only one side's going to come out well at the end of it. So.
And Prince Harry said in his statement, we fully expect it will unveil the truth that collectively forced us to resign. We remain hopeful that this will allow for the charity to be put in the right hands immediately for the sake of the communities we serve.
What's interesting, though, is the attack of from Sophie Chanduka on Harry and the Sussexes have been very personal, and it feels as though the Sussex camp have tried not to retaliate in such a personal way.
Yes.
They appear to be taking a slight step back so it doesn't become hugely personal. It's almost like being in a school playground or something, the tit for tat.
Yeah, a little bit. So as Lizzie said, we've had statements today from Dr. Chanduka as well on behalf of Sentebale, because obviously Sentebale is no longer sort of Harry's organisation because he walked away, saying that, we hope that these actions will give the general public and our colleagues and everyone else that we serve, that we are at Sentebale acting appropriately to demonstrate and ensure good governance. This is all about this issue of governance. Where's the money going? Who's spending it? What are they spending it on? Is it being spent wisely? So there are lots of accusations flying around at the moment. But I never thought we'd have a podcast where we were talking about the regulatory compliance. Here we are. It's a regulatory compliance case.
I think it was eye-opening for just about every single person that watched that interview, because it's not what any of us were expecting in terms of looking at that side of the story.
Well, as I say, two sides cannot be right here. I mean, because I think it is the position on Harry's side and Prince Ciso and the Board of Trustees that all left, was that a lot of the fundraising only comes into Sentebale because of Harry, because of his high profile, the links to his mother, the fact it helped, what it does in extending the work that she was doing in HIV and AIDS. And then you got that Dr. Chanduka saying, well, actually, it was because of Prince Harry and Meghan and the, you either love them or hate them approach that the money had dried up, and they were at fault for some of the fundraising not materialising. So, as I say, two sides cannot be right here, and it's the Charity Commission will now have to find out exactly who's telling the truth.
Yeah, and I think we'll all find it really fascinating once they finally...
But don't hold your breath. I don't think it's going to happen in a matter of days. I think this is a weeks, perhaps even months. Yeah.
We're really interested to see if anything else comes out in that interim time as well. But you did mention his mum, Diana, there, and it was like you knew what was coming next. Chris, almost if you knew, because actually we're going to go to the part of the programme where we delve into our Royal Archive, and we're going back to April 1987, and a moment in history which we still talk about now and which we still reference now, and that's when Princess Diana went into a hospital to visit HIV and AIDS patients and touched them without wearing gloves. And to anyone watching this that who wasn't around at that time, life for those with HIV and AIDS was really difficult, and people thought they could contract HIV or AIDS by simply touching somebody. So when Princess Diana touched patients without gloves, it was huge news. Let's take a look.
The Princess of Wales felt not the slightest apprehension about her visit to the Middlesex Hospital and its AIDS ward, according to press reports. All the speculation had centred on whether she would wear gloves when shaking hands with the staff and patients on the new ward. But as she entered, to the delight of the staff, she clearly wasn't wearing gloves. And she shook hands with all the nurses, doctors and all 10 patients on the ward. She stayed more than an hour, but was not filmed with any of the patients. They were worried about public exposure. Only one agreed to be photographed.
Ward visit was private. That's what the patients wanted, that it was purely private. She met 10 patients. She shook hands with all of them. When appropriate, when they were in bed, she sat on their bed next to them and was very natural indeed. To see a person in public life coming to a ward, sitting on patients' beds, touching patients, shaking hands with them, exchanging words with them, of course that does help tremendously to dispel any remaining sort of myths and anxieties. Of course, it's a very useful visit in that sense.
Now, there's to anyone that isn't watching us do this programme, in my ear, I've got an earpiece just here, and I can listen to the producers in my ear, all of whom are very young and will not have been around during this time. And they're watching this footage, and I can hear them in my ear going, I can't believe it was like that. It's mad watching people get excited about somebody touching somebody else who has HIV and AIDS. But this was at the height of the AIDS epidemic, and this was a huge moment in history, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're right to say that in the 1980s, like the AIDS epidemic, as it was becoming known then, was very, very controversial. And, there was a lot of, just some really just nasty stuff going on, with a particular community, the gay community. It was seen as a gay-only disease. We now know, of course, that you can contract AIDS through heterosexual sex as well. But Princess Diana, with the fame that she had, forget this is probably around the height of her fame, going into Middlesex Hospital, and I've just actually realised that Middlesex Hospital is the place that was knocked down, which we went to with the King at Christmas time, where he recorded the Christmas message. Just suddenly come to me. Middlesex Hospital. Why do I know Middlesex Hospital? And it's because we went to that little chapel, remember? And when they knocked the hospital around, they left the chapel there where the King recorded his Christmas broadcast. I digress. But it was a very, very significant moment. And look at the long-term implications it had in terms of helping AIDS charities. Even the government launched a sort of massive campaign off the back of it. People might remember that Tombstone campaign that the UK government launched. And it was a really big deal what she did. And then look at the long-term implications in terms of Harry and what he launched and Sentebale. So
it's incredible. And I would say that amongst not just communities here in the UK, but globally, that particular shot and that particular moment is what really catapulted her into icon status across so many communities in the world.
It does show the power of using those positions carefully and properly, what you can achieve, and the what you can highlight.
Yeah.
But both her sons have gone on to taken her legacy and tried to take it forward. In her memory, you've got Prince Harry with Sentebale, the work he's done around landmines. You've got Prince William and the work that he does around homelessness. They're both sort of driven by their mother.
That was April 1987.
Yeah.
So on this week in April 1987.
Exactly.
I like this new. Whoever came up with this idea, I'd like to think it was me, but it wasn't.
Was it not you?
It wasn't a way of praising myself.
A plug for you.
No, I think it's really good. Last week we had the Prince Charles in the skiing accident, and we've seen some really good sort of library.
I think it's a really good reminder for people because the royal family
they've been around forever.
Yeah, but also what life
1066.
was like then compared to what life was a member of the royal family.
Next week we've got a report from 1066 about William the Conqueror, but even ITN didn't exist then.
With like little plasticine, things.
Yes.
Anyway, you did briefly mention Meghan's work.
I thought you were going to jump straight in there with a segue. But
there we go. You briefly mentioned Meghan's work
and it has
talking about the new royal family and how things look now. And obviously they're not working royals anymore.
Now she can do business ventures, which she couldn't done before.
Exactly. And she's doing very well out of her brand selling jam. It's sold out, isn't it?
She's been busy.
Yeah.
So as ever,
sold out. I was on the website earlier.
So as ever, the products went live this week and sold out very quickly. So there we have the raspberry
spread.
Jam.
It's not jam. It's
raspberry
spread.
So and that was $14.
Okay.
We've got flour sprinkles there.
I just want to say the ingredients of the raspberry jam is raspberries, sugar, lemon juice.
Yes, it's made with Meghan's hand.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure the jam that I buy from Sainsbury's has got the same ingredients, but
you can also. She's written a newsletter that if you're signed up, you get to your inbox, and in that she says that the jam jar can be reused as sort of a keepsake.
No way.
She says that you can then remember this pivotal moment.
You can wash it out and actually put stuff in it.
Yeah, and you
like
can think of it as our time capsule, and you can use it for love notes, special treasures, bud vase to hold pens. These are her ideas, not mine.
You could put pens in the jam jar.
You could.
When it's empty.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Stunning.
She's done well out of it. You know what?
Everything's sold out. There's a crepe mix here, a pancake mix. Sold out, it says, and you can get notified when it's back in. The ingredients: flour,
oh, stop
milk,
it, Chris. Because if you go down to Fortnum and Mason's, which I'm sure is like basically your local supermarket.
Well, that's where I do my weekly shop.
That's where you do your weekly shop. They will also sell things like jams and what have you that are a bit more expensive than going down to your local
flour
Sainsbury's.
sprinkles were
$14.
Okay, I don't really understand what flour sprinkles are.
Edible flowers. Come on, keep up.
What,
you sprinkle it on everything?
On everything. Anything and everything.
Oh, right.
Cereals in the morning.
Well, in With Love Meghan, her Netflix show, she did put flour sprinkles on an awful lot of stuff, including a fried egg.
I'll show you a picture of them.
Okay.
So they come in a little tin. I wonder whether you can reuse the tin afterwards as well.
Yeah, I just don't
So they're edible flowers. And
it basically makes it pretty.
In the Netflix show, they basically went into everything, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
On top of cakes, into cookies.
If I picked the petals off the flowers in my garden.
No. These are specific edible flowers.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Definitely don't do that.
That's one of those. Don't try this.
Lizzie's face.
No, don't do that.
No.
That's one of those. Don't try this at home
Please
moments.
don't try this at home. Definitely not.
But you've got those forces within.
Do you want to know which flower petals they are? Because I can tell you.
No, not
dried rose, candula and blue cornflower petals, and hibiscus flowers. So if you've got them in your garden, you're fine.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Don't
well, according to Lizzie, not just any rose.
I think
dried rose.
Yeah, best just not to.
You could get those ones.
Unless Chris is actively trying to poison me.
Wow.
But you sort of got like those forces who have been actively almost trying to make sure this didn't sell out.
I mean, whatever Prince Harry and Meghan do, they are always going to face criticism, aren't they? they polarize opinion on everything and anything. So they're always going to be criticised.
Yeah.
But if
Right.
everything's
Working.
sold out and she's sold loads and she's making loads of money, then actually who's the winner here?
Yeah, and there are other, non-working royals who also use their names to make money because it's an easy way to make money and everyone's got bills to pay.
Exactly.
So you can't really hate on them for that.
By the way, you can use these flowers, according to
Oh my
Meghan,
God, you're obsessed
on
with
your
flowers. Can somebody
breakfast.
buy Chris?
You can put it
flowers?
on your chia seed pudding, because I'm sure you have that every morning,
every
or your
day.
avocado toast. You just sprinkle it on.
She popped it on a fried egg in with Love Meghan.
Flowers on a Friday. Yeah, no, I remember.
I can hear the
Yes.
gallery laughing.
I just don't get it. I often wonder. Often wonder if I'm simply not posh enough because I don't
have enough time, I think, to be sprinkling.
sprinkle.
No.
And I feel like putting petals on avocado on toast is a real waste. Put chili flakes on it.
Chili flakes,
that-
salt.
that is
That
a good shout.
improves the flavour.
That's a great, yeah.
You know, but sprinkle of sea salt.
Have you tried hibiscus petals?
You
See,
do
you're
realise
speaking with that knowledge, aren't you?
you do realise we're now going to have a whip round, and we are now going to have to buy.
You can't get them. They're sold out.
Once
So-
they. Oh come on, you two have got connections.
All right, we're
Hit up your connections on WhatsApp.
I'll message
Get
Meghan
us
right
some
now, see if
flowers.
we can get some.
Sort it out.
Right, finally,
Yes.
are we going on a group trip to Brazil?
Wow.
Oh, good question.
We're definitely going. It's
Oh, charming! Thanks
Well,
very much.
actually, to be fair, we don't know whether we're going. All we know is that Earthshot, Prince
Yeah.
William's, environmental award, is going to be there. But even the palace won't confirm that the prince is going. It's just the way they do things. They don't like to say too early in the year that the prince is going. Well, you mean he's not going to go to the award ceremony that he created? Anyway, so we think he'll be there. But if he doesn't go, it's highly unlikely that our foreign desk will pay for us to go.
I think it's pretty likely he'll go. So we've had it now we've had Europe. We have.
Can you name all the cities? You probably can.
Lizzie
you?
can. I definitely
I can.
know.
All right, do you want to test me
Thank you,
first then?
Charlene.
Do you want to test me?
Yes, go on.
London,
Yeah.
Boston,
Yeah.
Singapore, South Africa, now Rio de Janeiro.
Is he correct?
He is correct.
I am shocked.
So you can't have that in the Christmas quiz next year.
I am genuinely shocked that you got
I
that.
cannot tell you all the names of Princess Anne's grandchildren, but Lizzie can.
I can
Yes,
do that.
yes. But you have your strengths and weaknesses.
I agree. Yeah.
So Brazil. But explain what Earthshot actually is.
So Earthshot is Prince William's environmental prize every year, working to sort of upscale ideas to help protect and repair the planet. There are 5 prizes each year. Each winner
Can you
gets
name all 5?
£1 million.
There's wind, there's air, there's ocean.
Oh no, you just
And I forget the other 2 always. I go wind, air, ocean, and
You
then.
can't say that and then go.
And
Oh,
then
I forget the other two.
No.
Forgotten.
Sorry,
you.
I'm trying to find a fact that Lizzie doesn't know.
I was mid-flow.
Lizzie knows everything.
Do you know all 5?
5 prizes. Each
answer.
winner gets £1 million, as I say, to upscale their ideas.
Each
this
winner of
year
the 5
in
categories.
Rio de Janeiro. Shh. Thank you. In Rio de
Are
Janeiro.
you going to give the 5 categories?
Oh no.
Finally.
Oh, on that note, I think we're done.
Yes, we're
actually.
done.
God,
Yes, yeah.
Every
Well, I
week
mean-
seems to be a packed week and stuff.
Whether or not Kate's going to go, that's obviously won't be confirmed much closer to time. We can expect William to go, but actually,
Yeah.
I mean, Kate did go. We were with them in Boston, and she went to the first one in London, which was all under COVID. She didn't go to Singapore because George had some big test at school, and obviously last year was affected by her illness. So we don't know about Kate's.
Okay.
But the other big thing is that COP is happening there this year, also
Yes,
in Rio
it
de
is,
Janeiro. So will William
No,
stay on
Not in Rio de Janeiro.
in Brazil? Sorry, isn't it?
Belém. In
It's in the
Brazil.
middle of the rainforest, isn't it? Well, they're literally having.
You've redeemed yourself.
Yes, she has. They're actually having to hire cruise ships to sort of sail down this river to this very tiny town where they're holding COP in order to house all the journalists and government officials and everything
But
else. So-
don't cruise ships involve a lot of fuel, which aren't good for the environment?
yeah, and create a bit of sort of wash on
Yeah.
the riverbank.
They should make them row there,
Yeah,
quite frankly.
not a bad idea.
But
you know?
I think, going back to the Princess, it is only April, and they are still focusing very much on this sort of gradual return to work and prioritising her recovery. So I think, that decision and that announcement won't come until much later in the year. Earthshot and COP are in November.
Okay, brilliant. Well, we could do like the COP stuff and the Earthshot stuff if the bosses
We could
wanted
just
to.
stay there for weeks, couldn't we?
Yeah, let's just do that.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right.
And let's just do this from Brazil.
Camp up in the rainforest, hire a
Yeah.
cruise ship.
Yeah. Oh, can I get a helicopter?
You're in a boat. You just said what a
Very
good
happy.
idea.
Oh no
Rowing
no
boat.
sorry.
They're a bit
When I say the journalists can row there, I clearly wasn't talking about myself.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to see you
I
arriving.
just need everyone to understand I will be rowing
You
nowhere.
know, helicopters are quite polluting.
Yes.
You know, that's the.
Yeah, helicopters are polluting, but
Rowing boats
but
not.
rowing.
You've got to think of your hair. and-
Exactly, and the makeup and all of that stuff are very, very important. Look, this has been fun as always.
Oh, actually, can I ask you one question before you wrap up? What did your colleagues at Loose Women think about their meeting with the Queen? I know they spoke perhaps about the domestic violence issue.
Yeah,
but
we
I'm just
talked
really
about it on the show
interested in
yesterday, actually.
a non-royal person.
God, I'm literally
talking
trying to
about-
wrap up the show, and Chris is like deciding to produce himself.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's
so
not on the list. It's not on the list. but you
It's not on the
can
list,
talk-
but
no.
it's fine. They had a really great time, and we spoke about it on Loose Women yesterday. Denise told the tail end of a dirty joke to Camilla, which Camilla found absolutely hilarious and was laughing her head off.
You can tell us offline.
And then Janet Street Porter proceeded to complain about the decor at Clarence House and said they really need to think about the paintings that are up there because they're very old, they're not very good, and having paintings of corgis up on the wall really simply won't do. So she complained about that.
Okay.
But the thing that she was really happy about, that she mentioned yesterday on the show, was that they have stopped serving English sparkling wine, which in her years of experience is what they insisted on serving, and instead of now serve proper champagne.
Right.
Phew. What a relief.
Again, environmentally, the English wine would have less far to travel. So,
Oh, I know.
you're right.
But Janet Street
details,
Porter
though.
has very specific taste.
okay,
Yeah.
fine.
And the other thing she said is that because the canapes, weren't filling, when she got home, she had a glass of wine and ordered a kebab. So Janet's life, ups and downs.
What a roller coaster.
Yeah. Oh, my double life. Right, that's it. Chris and Lizzie, I will speak to you on this big screen next week because we'll be speaking with you in Italy and me here in the studio. So do join us for that. And as always, thank you so much for listening in today. And you can subscribe and like our content wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also get it by watching ITVX and on YouTube. So I will see you in this chair next week. And these two will be joining you from Italy. So we'll see you then.